Hello my friends, a very warm welcome to the tutorial The Winds of Change, where autumn here is in full swing. If you're interested in how this project was made, let's first of all look at the materials. To begin with, we have the watercolour card, and this is the hot pressed version. We're also using ink sprays in teal and periwinkle, followed by the same acrylic spray in sun yellow, bright orange and cranberry red. We've also got the mop brush. This is number 2, the medium size. We've got a few ink pads, first of all violet chalk, emperor red and sundance. Also picked out blueprint sketch in distress oxide and fantasia in versifying clair. We've got a couple of pan pastels in titanium white and orange, but these are optional. You can of course use the pastel tins if you have it. And I've pulled out what I describe as a few foxy colours to colour the fox. We've got rusts and orange and amber, browns, black, cream and a dark blue. Also got the circle template, but the circle stencil would do as well. We've got our stencil brushes, a water brush and also Posca pens in red, yellow, and I think you also use a dark red like a burgundy colour. In terms of clean colour zig, we've got a red, a couple of greens and a yellow. We've got gel pens in white, yellow and black. Also got our stickles, any colour would do, this is diamond. So next we have the stamps, and we've got the lovely bandit, one of my favourites, and also the oak leaves, winter berries, tree scene, small trees and small dwellings. So if you want to convert all of those into something that looks a little like this, just keep on watching. So we've got 5 by 8 inches watercolour card. We've got our paper for dabbing off and also a pencil. And what I'm doing is, first of all, I'm going to draw a hill on the top third of the card, just like that. Going to take our ink sprays. We've got periwinkle first of all and also teal. I'm going to spray those out on our mat. Now the brush is already dampened and I'm just going to literally sweep the colour across the first third of the page up to the hill. And now for a little teal. And I think that was a little bit too strong for me, so I took my brush and watered it and just dabbed some off and blended it back in again. Added some more periwinkle to the top to darken it. It's a lovely colour, and I think I then dried off and added another layer, and there it is. Now next we are adding some beautiful colour to the bottom 2/3 of the card. So we're starting off with our yellow, some orange and also some red, and I've just taken my card out of the way when I spread that because it goes all over the place. So we're swiping the yellow, and look at that glorious colour. This is a real primary colour type project. We're now dabbing the orange just across. Rather than sweeping, we're now dabbing for some texture, and the same with the red, just down to the bottom, and then blending it all in with a freshly watered brush. And again taking the red and just stippling it really to add a little bit of texture on the hill, and carrying that on up a bit as well. Just literally dabbing the top of the brush in. Going to dry it off, and there we are, that's our first main layer. Now we're going to take blue print sketch in the oxide, and I want to add a little more depth to the sky. I'm thinking about the moon, and to make the moon glow we need some contrast, and I'm thinking about where it's going to be placed, and I'm really just darkening up the sky around where the moon is going to go, and that will create a bit of a glow. So that's it done. Next up, the gorgeous Emperor Red, and this is really a fabulous colour. Look at the depth there. Oh, it's so luscious. So I'm putting that mainly around the edges and the bottom half of the card. just building up the colour and deepening it slightly. That's us. Next up, I've got violet chalk, and I'm going to stipple this in, not blending it as such, but just dabbing the top of the stencil brush into the surface so that it's more textured. So it's adding depth to the bottom of the picture and also some texture. And that's it. Now I thought we would blend in some yellow because it's rather bright at the top, so taking the Sundance and another stencil brush and just trying to blend that in between the orange and the top of the hill. And that's that. Now for some stamping. Now this is the permanent ink pad and the little set, the small dwelling set. This is copy paper that's roughly been torn in a circular shape to protect and mask the hill. And we're just going to take the little stamps and stamp them around the top of the hill. This is the tall single tower or house. And I'm going to pop one of these either side of the centre dwelling. There we are. And finally the little one, and again I'm going to pop that either side at the top of the hill. And don't worry about the colour of these, really you could stamp them in any colour that you have because we are going to colour them in. But before I do that, I'm just adding a line of green there to ground them at the top. Now we're going to add some trees, and you'll know from my projects that this tiny tree is a firm favourite. I'm always adding it, and we're taking the Elements ink pad first of all, and we're stamping 2 or 3 of the trees. And now I'm taking the mop brush, which is still damp from before. There isn't a lot of water on this, it's just damp, and I'm blending this ink in with the background. Now this reacts with water, so it's a lovely technique to use if you want to add a hazy first layer of trees. And I'm taking the second little stamp from the set and I'm just plopping those down, and I'm blending them out in the same fashion. And as I say, keep your brush relatively dry, just a little bit damp, and there you are. Don't worry about the houses, we're going to restore them shortly. Now I'm taking the permanent ink, which is not reactive with water, just to add some definition on top. I'm not stamping them directly on top of the ones before, but to each side, just to bring some of the little trees to the foreground and adding a little texture to the top. And finally we've got this lovely elm tree from the little set of small trees, and this is to add some height and some extra dimension and texture to our little scene. And a couple more to go either side, and that is the trees complete. Next up is Foxy. Love this stamp, got some real character in his movement. It's a beautifully drawn stamp, and we're just going to use the same ink pad to stamp him in place, but we will be colouring him in later, so don't worry if it doesn't come out perfectly. There we are. Now I've got my circle template, and again you can use the circle stencil if you have that. I just have this in my drawer and it's easy to lift. And this is a white gel pen, and I'm just filling in the circle basically, and that will be our moon. I'm drying that off. Next I'm still using the white pen, and I've decided to colour the little houses in white and restore the shape which perhaps has been lost when we were stamping our trees. So I'm really just following the detail of the stamp. And I'm also then going to colour the roof in a Posca pen, and this is like a dark red burgundy colour. And finally putting a little chimney in white. Now this is the black fine liner, and I'm colouring in the doors and the windows just in black. And there they all are complete. Next, I thought at this stage I would just add a hint of a shadow just coming across the top of the hill. Nothing fancy, just a little shadow in the the direction that the moon would be lighting on top of them. Also just blending that out with the water brush, which is optional. It's just me fussing. Ignore and then darken it down again. So that's it. Now the titanium white pan pastel, and it's simply a dab with your finger and blend it in around the edge, and we have, like magic, created a glow. So next we're taking our lovely pastel pencils, and these are the foxy colours. So we've got an orange, a rust, an amber, a cream. I've also got a couple of colours in brown, a white, a black and a dark purpley blue. So we're going to do a first layer using the mid-tone brown. And it's really just to set a base. Make sure that your ink underneath is dry. I'm not terribly sure that mine was, and if it's not completely dry, there is a bit of a resist, so do dry it off thoroughly before you add the layer of pastel. As you can see, I've added then a dark layer in black around the feet, and I'm starting to introduce some colour to the top half, and also this little patch of white fur under the chin and some light areas on the face to define that a little bit. Sorry about my blurry camera. Just adding some light at the top of the fox and also on his little tail. And just gradually building it up, making sure that the bits of stamp that were perhaps missed in the first stamping, just to put them in place again, following the line art, of course, with the beautiful stamp. Just adding some shadow underneath the tail, underneath the belly, underneath the chin, and defining some areas there along the ears. And thought I would add at this stage some delicate little highlights, which isn't always easy with a broad nibbed pen. So I dab off with my finger just to blend in. I don't want it too stark. I just want a hint of white here and there. And where I don't like what I've done and want to alter, as well as dabbing it with my finger, I can always go over it again with the pastels to dull it down. So it is a bit of a dance, toing and froing, placing down what you think will look good, dabbing it off and fixing it as you go along. So there we are, and I think I add some on the paws as well. And that's basically the wee fox. Now, I thought at this stage that he was too brown, so I took a pan pastel in orange because I wanted to add a lighter tone to the top. Fear not, all is not lost. I also then go back over and restore the bottom half with brown and black, and then add some rust colour on top, and I think I was happier with that. Now for the shadow. This colour is a lovely colour. It's like a dark purple stroke navy. I think it's probably more purple than navy. It's more of a periwinkle colour, and I thought that would go nice against the red to create a shadow. And I roughly follow the direction of the paws and then do a big blob for the body. Then take the black pastel and add that close into the paws just to give that a bit more depth. And there we are, he's grounded on the hill. Now to give him something to play with, and we're back to Fantasia and the beautiful single leaf, and I'm placing this close to his nose to indicate that he is playing with the leaves that are blowing ahead of him. And the idea is to have these leaves flowing across the picture and up off the picture so that your eye follows the fox and then the leaves. So that's the windy trail of leaves in place. And now I thought I would add, for extra texture, a few more leaves along the sides which we will give more definition to in a little while. And that's it. Beautiful, beautiful fine stamp. So I'm taking the Clean Colour Zig pen in this light olive colour and basically going around the edges of the leaves to give them a little bit more definition. I've taken my yellow in the Clean Colour marker and also going over the leaves with that. And finally the red as well, I added some of that to the sides and the centre. And now what I'm doing is taking a yellow gel pen, and a Posca pen would do for this as well, and just putting some highlights on the edges of some of the leaves, just to one side, and the veins of the leaves as well. Also adding back some little highlights on Foxy. Couldn't leave him alone. So that's it, just a few more little speckles. And now I'm going to stamp in the lovely berries, which are this is a beautiful set of stamps. This is the large one from the stamp, first of all, and this is just to create some kind of a border for the picture, really. Now I'm moving to the smaller version of the stamp and just adding that here and there. There we are. So next up I'm taking my yellow Posca pen and I'm adding that to my mat, and a water brush, and I'm using it to paint with. You can just use this with an ordinary brush. Mine was getting a bit watery, but just keep an eye on it so it doesn't run, and then dry it off thoroughly. So that's it with them all, basically given a light layer of the Posca pen, which does react with water if you're quick. So next I'm taking the red Posca pen just to add some depth and definition to the berries. And I'm also mixing this with the red Zig Clean Colour marker. As I say, the Posca pen will quite happily mix with water-based products as well. So I'm not very particular about using two different types of pens. I think you can throw everything into the mix. And now I'm taking a green as well, and I'm just darkening up around the edges and the centres. Now I'm adding some yellow with my yellow gel pen. You could again use your Posca pen if it was behaving. Mine really needs replaced. That's the reason I'm using the other yellow pen that I have. And just restoring the red to the centres, and then a final dab of white brings them to life. And now, as you can see, I've completed the rest. Some of them I've done dark, some of them I've done green, and just put in a variety of colours. And now to add a little bit of energy to the piece by simply adding a few little dots. But more particularly, I'm interested in a trail of wind that goes from the fox and through the leaves. So it's creating a little path using the yellow dots. From one leaf to the next, right across and up over the sky up until the end. So you're drawing your eye up the page. Finally, of course, we have some stickles, and adding those to the leaves and a few berries. Little bits on the fox where the moonlight would touch his fur, and just wherever you fancy. It's now been mounted up into black card, and that's a sort of pale lilac piece of card I had hanging around. I've also added some white and black dots to the trail of wind. That's it. So I hope you enjoyed today's project, and I really look forward to seeing your own versions of this autumn picture. So take very good care of yourselves until next time, and above all, get creating. Be brave and enjoy the adventure.